On January 21st, 1968, the quiet mountains of northwestern South Vietnam erupted with the thunder of artillery. Without warning, hundreds of shells crashed into the U.S. Marine base at Khe Sanh, destroying buildings, igniting fuel dumps, and sending soldiers scrambling for cover. Within minutes, it became clear that this was no ordinary attack. One of the longest and most controversial sieges of the Vietnam War had begun. Located just a few miles from the border with Laos, Khe Sanh Combat Base occupied a remote plateau surrounded by steep hills and dense jungle. Though isolated, its position was strategically important. From there, American and South Vietnamese forces could monitor enemy movement along routes. Connected to the famous Ho Chi Minh Trail, the vast supply network used by North Vietnam to move troops and equipment into the south. Because of its location, Khe Sanh had become a constant target. Throughout 1967, intelligence reports warned that large North Vietnamese army units were gathering in the surrounding hills. Patrols encountered increasingly organized resistance, while reconnaissance aircraft photographed new trenches and hidden artillery, positions appearing in the jungle. Still, no one knew whether the enemy intended to launch a major assault. Everything changed in January 1968. As artillery fire intensified, thousands of North Vietnamese soldiers tightened their grip around the base, occupying the surrounding high ground. Roads leading to Khe Sanh became too dangerous to use, cutting off normal supply convoys. The Marines inside quickly realized they were being isolated. Reinforcements could no longer arrive by land. Food, ammunition, fuel, and medical supplies would now depend almost entirely on aircraft flying through dangerous weather and enemy fire. The situation reminded many senior officers of another famous siege, Dien Bien Phu. 14 years earlier, French forces had been surrounded in a remote valley in Vietnam before suffering a catastrophic defeat that ended French colonial rule in Indochina. Now some feared history was about to repeat itself. Washington watched the situation with growing concern. Military leaders debated whether Khe Sanh should be reinforced, abandoned, or defended at all costs. For the Marines inside the base, however, there was no debate. They had one mission: hold the line as enemy trenches crept closer each night and artillery continued pounding the perimeter. The defenders understood that this would not be a battle won in hours or days. It would become a test of endurance and survival. As the siege tightened around Khe Sanh, life inside the combat base became a daily struggle for survival. North Vietnamese artillery fired almost every day, targeting bunkers, supply areas, airstrips, and command posts. The constant shelling forced Marines to spend much of their time underground, emerging only when necessary to repair damage or reinforce defensive positions. Sleep became a luxury. Every explosion could signal the beginning of a larger attack. The greatest challenge was keeping the base supplied. With the surrounding roads under enemy control, nearly everything had to arrive by air. Transport aircraft carrying food, ammunition, fuel, and medical equipment approached the airstrip while enemy artillery searched for targets below. Landing was incredibly dangerous. Pilots had only seconds to unload their cargo before taking off again. Ground crews worked with remarkable speed, knowing that every extra moment increased the risk of incoming shells. When weather conditions made landings impossible, the United States turned to another solution. Large transport aircraft began dropping supplies by parachute. Pallets loaded with ammunition, water, and food floated toward the base beneath brightly colored parachutes. Marines rushed to recover them before damaged containers or enemy fire could destroy valuable supplies. Meanwhile, American aircraft filled the skies above Khe Sanh. Fighter jets, attack aircraft, and B-52 strategic bombers launched one of the most intense aerial bombing campaigns of the Vietnam War. Their mission was to strike enemy troop concentrations, trench systems, and artillery positions hidden in the surrounding hills. The explosions echoed through the mountains day and night. Despite the overwhelming air support, the pressure on the defenders never disappeared. North Vietnamese soldiers continued expanding their trench network, slowly moving closer to the marine perimeter under the cover of darkness. Each night, patrols left the safety of the base to observe enemy movements and prevent surprise attacks. Every mission beyond the wire carried enormous risk. The enemy was often only a few hundred meters away. As January turned into February, it became clear that neither side intended to back down. The siege was becoming a battle of endurance. The question was no longer whether Khe Sanh could survive another day, but how much longer the defenders could hold before the enemy made its next move. By February 1968, the Siege of Khe Sanh had become one of the most closely watched battles of the Vietnam War. Military leaders in Washington followed daily reports, while newspapers around the world questioned whether the isolated marine base could continue to hold. Inside Khe Sanh, however, the defenders remained at their positions. Despite weeks of relentless shelling, damaged facilities and constant pressure, the base had not fallen. The United States responded by increasing its efforts to keep the garrison alive. Cargo aircraft continued delivering supplies whenever weather allowed, while American air power intensified its attacks against North Vietnamese positions surrounding the combat base. Thousands of bombing missions were flown during the siege. The mountains around Khe Sanh shook under continuous airstrikes as military planners attempted to prevent a large-scale ground assault. At the same time, Allied commanders organized a major relief operation. Its objective was clear: reach Khe Sanh by land. In April 1968, U.S. Marines and Army units, supported by South Vietnamese forces, began advancing toward the isolated base. Progress was slow as engineers cleared damaged roads and infantry secured the surrounding terrain. After weeks of determined movement through difficult jungle and mountainous terrain, the advancing columns finally linked up with the Marines defending Khe Sanh. The siege had effectively been broken. For 77 days, the defenders had resisted one of the longest sieges of the Vietnam War. Although the base remained in Allied hands, debate over its strategic value continued. Only a few months later, military commanders decided to evacuate and dismantle Khe Sanh combat base. The decision surprised many observers. A position that had demanded enormous effort to defend was ultimately abandoned after the immediate threat had passed. Even today, historians continue to discuss the battle's true significance. Some argue that Khe Sanh tied down large North Vietnamese forces during the Tet Offensive. Others believe its military value was limited compared to the resources invested in its defense. What remains beyond debate is the determination shown by the men on both sides. For 77 days, surrounded by jungle-covered mountains and under constant pressure, they endured one of the Vietnam War's most demanding battles. The Siege of Khe Sanh became more than a military operation. It became a lasting symbol of endurance, resilience, and the harsh realities of modern warfare.